Dr. Sage here. Welcome to the beginning of the video series on the tissue level of organization. In particular, today we're going to discuss the types of tissues. By the end of this video, you should be able to identify the 4 main types of tissues, discuss the function of each tissue type, relate the structure of each tissue type to their function, discuss the embryonic origin of tissue, identify the 3 main germ layers, and identify the main types of tissue membranes. The term tissue is used to describe a group of cells found together in the body. Microscopic observation reveals that the cells in a tissue share morphological features and are arranged in an orderly pattern that achieves the tissue's function. Although there are many types of cells in the human body, they are organized into 4 broad categories of tissue: epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous. Epithelial tissue, also referred to as the epithelium, refers to the sheets of cells that cover the exterior surfaces of the body, line the internal cavities and passageways, and form certain glands. Connective tissue, as its name implies, binds the cells and organs of the body together and functions in the protection, support, and integration of all parts of the body. Muscle tissue is excitable, responding to stimulation and contracting to provide movement, and occurs as 3 major types: skeletal or voluntary muscle, smooth muscle, and cardiac muscle in the heart. Nervous tissue is also excitable, allowing the propagation of electrochemical signals in the form of nerve impulses that communicate between different regions of the body. For the embryonic origin of tissues, the zygote or fertilized egg is a single cell formed by the fusion of an egg and a sperm. After fertilization, the zygote gives rise to rapid mitotic cycles, generating many cells to form the embryo. The first embryonic cells generated have the ability to differentiate into any type of cell in the body, and as such are called totipotent, meaning that each has the capacity to divide, differentiate, and develop into a new organism. As cell proliferation progresses, 3 major cell lineages are established within the embryo. Each of these lineages of embryonic cells forms the distinct germ layers from which all tissues and organs of the human body eventually form. Each germ layer is identified by its relative position: the ectoderm, ecto meaning outer, the mesoderm, meso meaning middle, and the endoderm, endo meaning inner. Alright, so my tip, how I try to remember these: endo, at least in my brain, kind of sounds like enter. So I think endo is the inner, so you're entering. Meso, that's easy, that sounds like middle. It begins with M, just like middle begins with M. And ecto, again, at least in my brain, kind of sounds like exit, so that's the outer layer. Epithelial tissue originates in all 3 layers, whereas nervous tissue derives primarily from the ectoderm and muscle tissue from the mesoderm. So the ectoderm makes things like skin cells, neurons, and pigmented cells, whereas the mesoderm make things like muscle cells, red blood cells, and tubercle cell of the kidney, while the endoderm makes things like lung cells, thyroid cells, and pancreatic cells. A tissue membrane is a thin layer or sheet of cells that covers the outside of the body, for example the skin, the organs, for example the pericardium, internal passageways that lead to the exterior of the body, for example mucosa of stomach, and the lining of the movable joint cavities. There are 2 basic types of tissue membranes: connective tissue and epithelial membranes. So some examples would be the mucous membranes that line the digestive, respiratory, urinary, and reproductive tracts. They are coated with secretions of the mucous glands. The serous membranes that line body cavities close to the exterior of the body, like the peritoneal, pleural, and pericardial cavities. The cutaneous membrane, or the skin, covers the body's surface. And synovial membranes line joint cavities and produce the fluid within the joint. The connective tissue membrane is formed solely from connective tissue. These membranes encapsulate organs, such as the kidneys, and line our movable joints. The synovial membrane is a type of connective tissue membrane that lines the cavity of a freely movable joint. For example, synovial membranes surround the joints of the shoulder, the elbow, and the knee. Fibroblasts in the inner layer of the synovial membrane release hyaluronin into the joint cavity. The hyaluronin effectively traps available water to form the synovial fluid. a natural lubricant that enables the bones of the joint to move freely against one another without much friction. The epithelial membrane is composed of epithelium attached to a layer of connective tissue, for example, your skin. The mucous membrane is also a composite of connective and epithelial tissues, sometimes called mucosae. These epithelial membranes line the body cavities and hollow passageways that open to the external environment and include the digestive, respiratory, excretory, and reproductive tracts. Mucus produced by the epithelial exocrine glands covers the epithelial layer. The underlying connective tissue, called the lamina propria, literally own layer, helps support the fragile epithelial layer. A serous membrane is an epithelial membrane composed of mesodermally derived epithelium called the mesothelium that is supported by connective tissues. These membranes lie in the coleomic cavities of the body, that is, those cavities that do not open to the outside, and they cover the organs located within those cavities. They are essentially membranous bags with mesothelium lining the inside and connective tissue on the outside. Serous fluid secreted by the cells of the thin squamous mesothelium lubricates the membrane and reduces abrasion and friction between organs. Serous membranes are identified according to locations. 3 serous membranes line the thoracic cavity, the 2 pleura that cover the lungs, and the pericardium that covers the heart. A 4th, the peritoneum, is the serous membrane in the abdominal cavity that covers abdominal organs and forms double sheets of mesenteries that suspend many of the digestive organs. The skin is an epithelial membrane, also called the cutaneous membrane. It is a stratified, squamous epithelial membrane resting on top of connective tissue. The apical surface of the membrane is exposed to the external environment and is covered with dead, keratinized cells that help protect the body from desiccation and pathogen. Alright, this has been your introduction to the types of tissues. Until next time, where we continue our discussion on the tissue level organization, this has been Dr. Sage.